Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our annual travel rally here at beautiful Audi Field. And we're so excited to be outside and talking all things tourism as we're working to rebound as a country and as a city. You know, this state-of-the-art facility opened in July of 2018, and we're so excited because we know that the global community relishes soccer, or what's also called football, globally. And we're excited that we're able to welcome fans back to this great venue. Now, today for us, it's really all about recovery. And as you recall, last year when we were here, we were all in the beginning of the pandemic, and we didn't have a lot of information to share with you in terms of how we were going to be able to recover or when we would recover. And fortunately today, we are excited and optimistic about the news. For us, our recovery campaign will focus solely on ways in which we can promote and bring visitors back to Washington. We'll hope to launch that very soon. Now, for us, it's not about looking back and where we've come from. This is all about looking towards the future and how we'll be able to rebound, as so many global cities have been doing that as well. Fortunately for us, we have a mayor that understands the importance of the hospitality industry. She listens to us, she's engaged in what we're focusing on, and she understands the economic impact that hospitality brings to the city on a regular basis. And under her leadership, we've been able to focus on, of course, keeping Washingtonians protected as well as visitors, as she's focused on health and safety guidelines. So I'd like to optimistically and enthusiastically welcome Mayor Bowser to address you all this morning.
Well, good morning, everybody. I am delighted to be here, delighted to join Destination DC and Elliot Ferguson, who's well representing his organization, our destination, through what has been a particularly difficult time for the hospitality industry. So I want to thank you for that. Danita Johnson, did I see her? Where is she? Danita, who is the president of business operations for DC United, and we of course are in the home of DC United. Greg Odell, who is the president and CEO of Events DC. I also want to acknowledge our Tori Emerson, who is the executive vice president for Public Affairs and Policy for U.S. Travel, and Quinn Fike, who is representing City Cruises. So let me acknowledge all of our friends who are here, as well as John Falchicchio, who's the deputy mayor for planning and economic development for the district. We, like the rest of like all of our communities, the travel industry is also focused on health and safety in their comeback and making sure that DC residents, our visitors and workers are safe and know that we are making travel and hospitality a top priority for our recovery. I want to thank our partners here at Audi Field. We recently announced that Audi Field would be host to most of our DCPS high school graduations, so that they can have in-person graduations in the beautiful outdoors. We know that that means so much to students and their families, and we know how many students missed out on having that wonderful tradition last year, and I'm so glad that thousands more will be able to enjoy it this year. We are also more hopeful today than we were at this time last year. More people are getting vaccinated, and we are seeing more and more of our community open up. So it's nice to be outside, out and about, seeing friends and family, and enjoying the wonderful things our city has to offer. So we stand ready to work with our travel industry partners to make sure that all of the investments that we are making will let everybody in the nation know, and indeed in the world know, how special our destination is, and that it will be tops on their list for travel destinations. I am happy also to note a partnership with the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington today. I'm excited to announce a new DC Shop, Eat, Play, and Stay giveaway. And that's going to help people get back to having fun in DC. We will have 51 winners with 5 grand prize winners who are going to get $25,000 each towards hosting an event in DC. And 46 winners will get between $500 and $10,000 to spend at restaurants, entertainment venues, and hotels in DC. So please go to our partners' website at RAMW, that's the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington.org, RAMW.org, to learn more about DC Shop, Eat, Play, and Stay. And Elliot tells this story better than me, but it is important to note how popular a destination we have. Before the pandemic, we welcomed over 25 million visitors to our city. These visitors spent over $8 billion and support 80,000 jobs. And we are all indeed optimistic about the days ahead. And a big part of that is making sure that everyone gets vaccinated. So please find a free walk-up, no registration, no appointment needed location in DC. Go to your health provider, go to a local pharmacy, and get vaccinated, DC. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for all of your support and your understanding as to the importance of the hospitality industry. And I want to know if I'm eligible to shop, eat, and play, as that's a great collaboration you're doing with the Restaurant Association. Now, the realization for us is that we have not advertised Washington in over a year. And that's obviously simply because we were not open. And that's changing. Every single day, we're hearing more and more about how we're opening and things in which people can do in the city. We're excited about the $2.5 million plan that we have in tandem with Events DC to promote Washington, DC to the domestic audience in the future. Of course, this will be focusing on guidelines on health and safety, as well as focusing on things in which people can do as they're looking at coming to Washington. And from our perspective, we really have to be in market now, as the mayor has already shared opportunities to reopen, and things are coming back online as a destination. We also recognize the fact that we compete with some extraordinary cities in the U.S. And Washington, from an international perspective, is the 8th most visited city. And as we're focusing on the domestic market, there are opportunities for us to look at ways in which we can bring those individuals to Washington as a destination. Now, we work closely with an organization called Destination Analysts, and based on their perspective, 72% of travelers are already planning leisure trips through the summer, and 41% expect to take a trip in the near future. But less than half have actually made reservations. But that does show that the market is ready to get back out there and engage, and so advertising truly works. Every single year we work with the CFO's office and others to focus on what's the return on investment as we look at promoting Washington as a destination. And the data tells us that for every dollar we spend on promoting DC as a destination, there's a $3 return on investment that we all benefit from as Washingtonians. So marketing and advertising works, and for those who think that everyone wants to come to Washington, we love the fact that people do want to come here, but it's still important that we continue to focus on engaging more people to come. Our strong campaign will focus on things in which folks can do in this city and focus on economic recovery for all facets of hospitality. We've conducted national research and in terms of ways in which we can promote DC, and we've come up with a local agency out of 25 agencies that worked towards helping us to promote DC as a destination. The good news is that the new agency, January 3rd, is based independently in Washington, D.C., founded by a woman, born and raised in Washington, D.C. And with MMGY, which is our global partner, we'll be focusing on our flexibility in terms of our digital strategy, our print, and other mediums in terms of promoting DC. You might even see some of our ads because visitors from the DMV play an active role on knowing what's to do, what there is to see and do in Washington. So Washington.org is very, very popular with the local audience. We recognize the fact that there are 50 million people that live within 4 hours of Washington, D.C., and that's our market. Not everybody is confident in terms of travel and maybe flying. I flew back here yesterday, and I'm very comfortable with that. But we know that that market is probably the best opportunity to come to Washington and enjoy all the things in which we have a chance to do on a regular basis, with many of those things being free. Our national push will be focusing on U.S. consumers to show intent to travel and are looking for East Coast destinations and urban destinations, and quite frankly, that's us. And that's where Washington.org will play a role as they're looking at finding ways to enjoy their summers and get out of their homes, especially those that are vaccinated. Let me say more about Washington.org. That's our website. That's the official website in which we work to promote DC. And one of the bright spots last year is the fact that we redesigned and relaunched Washington.org. And we're excited about how that website is resonating with folks that are going to plan trips and find ways in which they can visit Washington. In addition, as we focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're really excited about the newest section of our website that focuses on just that, something that's very passionate for me, as I've been the CEO of this organization for the last 10 years, but with Destination DC for 20 years. We know as a global destination, DEI experiences are extremely important as visitors have a chance to learn more about all of us in the United States, and especially the things in which they can see and do in Washington, D.C. Travel broadens people's perspectives and really brings us closer and breaks down some of the barriers that we've been focusing on and experiencing as a nation for a long time. So we're proud of not only Washington.org, but also that section of our website. We're proud of the fact that people come to Washington to exercise their First Amendment right, and we want people to come and protest and do things peaceful in Washington, D.C., peacefully, and that's been something that's been happening on a regular basis. Kudos to our mayor for Black Lives Matter Plaza, which has really resonated from a global perspective. And of course, after our mayor and her team were bold enough to make that statement, which is extremely important, we've seen it throughout the country and throughout the world as others have done the same. This site in DC as a destination has been the place where people come to exercise their First Amendment right, be it the 1963 March on Washington, the 2017 Women's March, and others. This is what DC is all about, and while they're here, we want them to enjoy all the amazing things that we have to offer as a destination. I'm personally proud to live in Washington for the last 20 years, right here in the city, and as we focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and even more purposely, especially since last year. Now, the mayor referenced Anita Johnson, who was named DC United's president of operations just recently. She's the first president of a major soccer club, first black president of a major soccer club, and only the third woman in history to hold that role. And I'd like to say to Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for inviting us here to Audi Field, as sports plays a huge role in how we promote Washington as a destination. And I'm happy to share with you a message from her at this time.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Audi Field. I'm so sorry I can't be there in person today with all of you, but I recently found my final destination in DC, so I'm back west, packing my bags to move to DC full-time. And I can't begin to share how excited I am. I was fortunate enough to spend a few years living in the district prior to heading out west, and I fell in love with the nation's capital, and I'm so eager to join all of you in calling it my home once again. I'd like to start by thanking Elliot and the team at Destination DC for all their hard work creating this event and everything they do to promote our great city as the wonderful destination it truly is. I would also like to pay special thanks and appreciation to Mayor Muriel Bowser. Madam Mayor, thank you to you and your team for everything you have done to keep our city safe and getting us into a position to reopen our doors to our fans. As you all know, we welcome back fans to Audi Field, where you are here today, for the first time in over 400 days on April 17th. And what an occasion it was. DC United are embarking on an exciting and progressive new era, led by myself, our new General Manager, Lucy Rushton, the second woman in MLS history to hold that role, and Hernan Losado, the youngest head coach in the league. And we couldn't have imagined starting this era without our fans. Their presence means everything to us, and their impact is immeasurable. With their support, the sound of the drums banging, and the full 90 minutes of chanting, we were able to open our season with an amazing come-from-behind 2-1 win. The atmosphere was incredible, and we're eager and ready to have this place full of 20,000 DC United supporters off their seats and celebrating with our great team once again when it's safe to do so. I promise you, there isn't a better energy or environment in sports. We at DC United recognize that we are more than just a soccer team. With our beautiful home Audi Field, we acknowledge and welcome our responsibility to drive economic impact for our city by creating experiences that excite and attract tourists and guests. With that in mind, we are proudly relaunching Audi Field this year to finally become the vision we had when we opened the stadium in 2018. An entertainment and event destination 365 days a year. Our venue would include a brand new sports book, a coffee shop, in addition to unique events such as 7 Washington Spirit matches, the championship match of the Premier Lacrosse League, and many more international sporting events, which will further showcase DC as a sports city. Why? Because DC is a sports city. This is the District of Champions. Along with our storied success in the early years of the MLS, paired with the recent championships from the Nationals, Capitals, and Mystics, our city's trophy cabinet is filling up, and the future looks bright. I promise you that when our city is able to fully reopen our doors, we will be ready and prepared to welcome people from far and wide, to visit the district and to watch our iconic sports teams compete. I can't wait to see you all in person soon. Vamos United.
Feel, as well as meeting you and having the chance to promote all types of sports at Audi Field, be it professional, amateur, and all of the other types that will be played here. We're fortunate also to have Harry Hardy, who's on board of Destination DC, and recognize the fact that not only does Audi Field book soccer events, but also rugby, lacrosse, and other types of events here at this venue. And we're keeping our fingers crossed as we're looking at hopefully hosting the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and we'll know more hopefully very soon. Now, I referenced earlier, we haven't been advertising in quite a while for obvious reasons, but there are ways and things in which we've been doing to keep the market engaged, especially with editorial, our website, and other mediums. This is our way of communicating to consumers what will happen or what they will be able to enjoy when they come back online. And we've continued to talk about all those things. And the mayor referenced earlier how important the restaurant scene is to Washington. And quite frankly, when the guy that's out there focusing on promoting DC says we have a great restaurant scene, that's one thing. But when the Michelin Guide references and makes Washington the 4th city in the United States to have a Michelin Guide, then that's a drop the mic moment, because that basically references how great the international scene is for fine dining here. We're thrilled with all the things that are going to be opening really soon in Washington, including today the reopening of the Udvar Hazy Center in Virginia. Then we'll have 6 other Smithsonians that will be opening by May 21st, and we look forward to future plans for others to open very soon. The fact that the National Gallery of Art's West Building will reopen on May 14th, the Holocaust Museum opens on May 17th, and a new open outdoor venue or place for folks to be able to enjoy, which includes the Dwight Eisenhower Memorial and the World War I Memorial, are already open and are great opportunities for folks to be able to come and enjoy Washington, especially those that say they've already seen everything, because we're excited about the new things that are coming online. And not only that, we'll be focusing on things in which we can celebrate this year, including the 175th anniversary of the Smithsonian's, the 100th anniversary of the Phillips Collection, and the 50th anniversary of the Kennedy Center later this year, as well as the creativity and resiliency of all of our amazing members, which are important to us. Now, we know it's been hard, and a lot have been relying on us in terms of ways in which we can promote and market DC. Bringing visitors back safely is our priority, and making sure that they know exactly what they can see and do is extremely important. But equally important is the 80,000 people that work specifically in the hospitality industry, and making sure that they know that there are opportunities for them to get back to work, which from our perspective, that's what it's all about, economic development. Creating visitor spending and tax revenue that's extremely important to the city. And I'm happy to have Quinn Feike with City Cruises here today. They operate many sightseeing cruises and the water taxi, so visitors returning is extremely and crucial to the business of City Cruises. So please welcome Quinn at this time.
Well, hello, I am Quinn Feike. And it is a beautiful day here. I am with City Cruises. I've been working with them for 3 years as a deckhand. And not only that, I've been in the tourism industry for a decade. So this is very important to me. The past 3 years, I've been a deckhand with City Cruises. And last year was completely devastating. We had to shut down our operations completely. So I was saddened to see a lot of my coworkers go away, and only half of them probably come back this year. So it was very nice to see people out on the water again. And we had a great cherry blossom season. We are very excited to continue. Memorial Day is coming up, and then July 4th. Our busy season is definitely the summer. So we're looking forward as well as all of you. I want to take this time to say, if you do want to join us, take a look at our Old Town Alexandria to Georgetown route. That is a wonderful way to see the city from a different perspective. You get to see the memorials and learn about the history of our town. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for having me here to speak today. And this is such a great opportunity. Join us on the water, and if you want to join us in a different way, we are hiring, so yeah, come work for us. It's really cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Quinn. And Quinn represents one of the 1,000 members that we have at Destination DC that are asking us questions about when are we going to rebound and what's happening next. So we're excited that they offer such a unique opportunity. And I'll tell you one thing that Washingtonians don't do enough of until they have someone that comes in town is play visitor or a visitor in their own hometown. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more appealing than the cruises up and down the Potomac and all the opportunities in which you can enjoy Washington as a destination. So that's a clue to the local community for those that are wanting to do something. And before you make plans to leave Washington and visit, do some things in your own hometown, and you'll find all those things on Washington.org. Now, from our perspective, we are the organization that focuses on promoting DC as a destination. And it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of work, but there's also data that drives everything in which we focus on. 2 weeks ago, we had an opportunity to talk to experts that offered data-driven information as to what we should expect in terms of trends focusing on reopening. Hotel forecasts, things in which will happen as we look at visitors coming to the city. And according to an organization called Tourism Economics, which was a part of that, domestic visitation was probably about 10 million in 2020. And it's forecasted to rise between 14 and 15 million this year, which would be up 50% from the year before. Now, of course, as you look at 2019, which is when things were going extremely well and we were realizing 10-year record numbers of visitation, we were around 18 to 19 million domestic visitors. So we're excited about the future and the fact that this year we're seeing a rebound, and in 2022 and beyond, we'll continue to rebound as numbers continue to grow to over 90%. DC hotels can expect 5.7 million rooms in demand in 2021, which is more than double what we experienced last year. And even though the data shows that leisure visitors from a transient perspective will return before meetings and conventions, we still remain aggressively and actively involved in bringing meetings of all sizes, be it groups that can meet in the convention center or groups that can meet in hotels or in special unique venues such as Audi Field. You know, customers expect destinations to be aligned, and they're asking us what should they expect as they're looking at recovery and bringing their meetings back to the city. And the word hybrid is being thrown out there a lot as they're wanting to have people in person, as well as a different opportunity for them to be able to tune in as to what's happening in their meetings. And fortunately for our organization, we're aligned with the Hospitality Alliance, which includes Kathy Hollinger with the Restaurant Association, in which the mayor referenced earlier, Solomon Keene with the Hotel Association, who works actively and closely with us for all of our efforts, as well as Greg Odell with Events.DC. And we're announcing an initiative that builds on positioning DC as a connected city for future meetings and conventions. Still Connected is a commitment signed by the Alliance that focuses on rebounding. And it's a reminder to customers that DC is connected to the resources that will help them recover successfully. Our industry takes health guidelines very seriously, and that will be a large part of what will happen as we focus on in-person meetings. We know for a fact that meetings will come back stronger in DC, and not just because I'm saying it, but because the experts are saying it, and we're getting more and more questions about when can they have meetings in DC. We are a robust economy as it pertains to the meetings market, and we're laying out opportunities for those groups to meet in the future. Right now, we remain in lockstep with not only Events.DC, but also venues and hotels around the city, including the Events Coalition that's looking at rebounding as they look at events and activities coming to the city. It's my pleasure to welcome and introduce to many of you one of our partners, Greg Odell, with Events.DC, to share some comments on what they're focusing on. Greg?
Thank you, Elliot, and good morning to everyone. I just want to first thank Elliot and his team for the amazing job that they've done despite the incredible impact of COVID to still marketing and selling our great city. You know, we have to think forward about not just the environment that we're in now, but also what our future is going to look like. And so they continue to market a city, particularly selling as we look to book business for the future. So I just want to thank Elliot and his team, his leadership, and his board as well. I certainly need to thank the mayor for the incredible job she's done in keeping all of us safe, but also focused again on the forward and the recovery as well. And so, Mayor, thank you for your leadership, and we couldn't be more thankful for getting us to what we hope are brighter days ahead as well. Thanks to our hosts at DC United. I know the mayor and Elliot already recognize them, but I'm particularly fond of this stadium. But the excitement that we know is going to build as they continue to have live events and more ball games here. So we're very excited about that as well. So our city and tourism and hospitality industry really is positioned well to catapult and drive this economic recovery. We know there's a lot of pent-up demand for travel right now. As the Convention and Sports Authority, we've been working very hard, particularly focused on our customers and working on some key activities that I wanted to share. First and foremost, we really want to keep our staff and our visitors safe. And so we've embarked on lots of activities really around investing in technology around cleaning as well as safety protocols as well. We actually got certified a global bio at-risk certification, GBAC, and we were the first to have one of our venues, the Convention Center in Northeast, to be certified, as well as some of our sports venues as well. And so we're positioned very well to receive our guests, but keep everybody safe in mind as well. One of the things we're also equally proud of is that we've been part of the public health response in supporting the mayor and her activities as we recover and rebound. And so you all, I'm sure, are aware that we hosted a temporary hospital at our Convention Center facility. We're also very happy that we never had any actually patients there, and that we really just had it there as a stopgap measure or really a last case scenario if we needed patients there as well. We're equally, if not more, proud of the fact that we've had vaccination sites at our venues as well, particularly with the Convention Center and the entertainment and sports arena. You all should know, as of today, we've actually had 80,000 people been vaccinated in our facilities. So we're very proud of that because we all know, as the mayor has said, we have to get people vaccinated. That is the key to our recovery as well. In fact, and now that the mayor has opened up that vaccination accessibility to everyone, we're probably going to eclipse 100,000 people within the next couple of weeks. And so we're very excited about that as well, and we'll see those numbers continue to grow. The third activity that we've really been focused on is rebooking our business. And so I'm proud to say we have a very strong book of business going forward. And in fact, We've seen no cancellations in 2022 for our major events, so that gives us a lot of hope and promise that we're all moving in the right direction as well. And we can just look around the city. We certainly know we have great attendance now coming back to our live events and venues, particularly behind me on this field. We're seeing people now come to see DC United. We're seeing people in Nat Stadium. We're seeing people come to see the Wizards, and the Wizards are winning, which we're very excited about. But also on May 15th, we're even going to see the Mystics with their opener at our entertainment sports arena as well. And so we're very excited about all the activities that we're going to see, and we'll see that attendance increase over time as well. So just on a personal note, I just want to say the reason why we're here is about travel, and we all know that we need travel. We know that the world is a better place when we're all traveling. We need each other, and we need to be together. We need to see our loved ones and have them come visit us. We also need to travel, to explore, learn new cultures, meet new people. We also need to go to sporting events and socialize, have our emotions moved again, sometimes good, sometimes bad. And for conventions and meetings, we also need people to come to our conventions, to network, to learn, to be educated, to change the world. But we all know we need to do that together, so we need to keep doing the right thing. So I'm excited about the future, the near future, because we think it's changing and we can see it before our eyes and we're all witnessing that. But I just ask that we all have to keep making sure we do it in the right way. So thank you, Elliot and team, for having me here today. It's now my pleasure and honor to introduce Tori Barnes, who's Executive Vice President of Public Affairs for U.S. Travel, and she's going to tell us all about what this week means. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Elliot. It's nice to be here with you today. Nice to be with you, Mayor Bowser, and Quinn as well. And I'd like to thank Destination DC, those at Audi Field, and all of you have made this possible today to have an event, a rally day. Well, I wish that we were all here in person. It's nice to be with some of you in person, and that's better, thank you. I'm particularly happy to be here in person with those who are here. Washington, D.C. is my hometown, and there's really no place I'd rather be celebrating. This city embodies the very best of travel. There are so many neighborhoods to explore, restaurants to try, our museums are free, our culture is rich, and so much of our country's history lies right here. Elliot, you and your team do such a great job showcasing DC, and I'm so excited to get back out there and rediscover my favorite places and find new ones. And I'm just excited for DC to welcome back more and more visitors from across the country and around the world to do the same. We're here today during National Travel and Tourism Week to recognize an industry that delivers so much for America. National Travel and Tourism Week was established in 1983, and while we've been celebrating the importance of the travel industry for nearly 4 decades, travel's contributions are timeless. Travel has always been one of America's best opportunities. It brings us closer together and strengthens our relationships with our families, with our friends. It broadens our horizons, allows us to explore common ground, and opens us up to new cultures, ideas, and experiences. It reminds the world how beautiful our country is and how welcoming we can be. Travel also employs millions of people of all backgrounds, providing that first step towards achieving the American dream and rewarding those who embody our country's best values: hard work, dedication, enthusiasm, and hustle. This industry that allows us to connect, explore, learn, and grow is also significant to the health of the economy, our workforce, and exports. In 2019, just prior to the pandemic, as Elliot mentioned, we were on a 10-year trajectory of growth, delivering $2.6 trillion for our economy, supported nearly 17 million American jobs, and generated a $51 billion trade surplus. Travel was a top 10 employer in all 50 states, including the District of Columbia, and it was the country's #2 export. All of that came to a halt in 2020. Travel spending declined by $500 billion, causing a $1.1 trillion economic loss for the economy, and 5.6 million American jobs that were supported by travel found themselves out of work. 2020 was truly devastating in every sense of the word, but the travel industry showed its unity and resiliency, and we are at the point where we can start to look forward, even though there is so much more work to do. A full recovery will require a robust return of all sectors of travel. That includes domestic and international, leisure and business, professional meetings, and events. We are making progress working alongside our elected officials at the federal, state, and city levels, and we will continue to be good partners by providing the travel industry's perspective and offering data-driven solutions to reopen the travel economy without compromising health and safety. Our industry is committed to providing the highest cleanliness standards to ensure everyone has a healthy and safe travel experience, and we are strongly encouraging our workforce and travelers to get vaccinated. We have seen that it is possible to travel safely and that professional meetings and events can be held safely. You all just heard from Greg and Elliot about all the great things that DC has coming forward, yet parts of travel still remain closed, which has a detrimental impact on businesses, workers, and communities across the country. By providing clear guidance and benchmarks that help cities, states, and localities lift gathering restrictions, and by determining a roadmap for reopening our borders, which are two areas we're working on with the Biden administration, we can bring back all segments of travel and the economy and jobs more quickly. As I said, there's still work to do, but the theme of this week is intentional. The power of travel will be not what only drives a full recovery for our country, but the way that we can move forward. From the rebuilding of our economy to the rehiring of Americans to making us more competitive on the global stage. We will play a role in defining the future of mobility to better connect America and use innovative technology not only to keep our country secure, but to improve the travel experience. All this will be possible because the power of travel is fueled by the strength of remarkable men and women like those that you heard from today and all of those out there who are rallying this week. These are the people who contribute so much to this industry and to our country. Thank you again for having me, and thanks for all you do.
A huge thanks to Tori Barnes for, quite frankly, being the chief advocacy person within the U.S. Travel Association that not only focuses on our industry, but also was very instrumental in DMCs, destination management organizations like ours, getting most the important PPP that was needed. So that was a lifeline for us as we were looking at continuously focusing on promoting DC as a destination. And of course to Greg Odell and his amazing team for all that they do, not only with conventions, but sports and all of the other activities in which they work to bring to the city. You know, now as we're talking about rebounding, the one component that we know that won't happen, at least in this year, is the international market. And, you know, folks always ask me, why do we talk about the international market and why is it so important to us? And as much as we love the international visitor, and I mean the domestic visitor, and I always joke about the 8th grader coming to Washington, doing all the free things and eating at Chipotle, and probably not staying in DC, the economic impact is not as great. We love all visitors, but the international visitor stays longer and spends more, so they're extremely important to us. There's an organization called Brand USA that focuses solely on promoting the U.S. from an international perspective to bring visitors to the city, and the U.S. Travel Association was instrumental in their existence. I have the pleasure of talking to the CEO of Brand USA weekly in terms of what they're focusing on as we're looking at rebounding. And we know one thing is that right now we're not ready for international travel, and the data tells us that it's probably going to be 2024 before we rebound to the numbers at which we were at. But we're extremely optimistic because we're already hearing from our offices around the globe, including our offices in China, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and Brazil, and of course India. And there's a lot of optimism about rebounding, and so there's a great chance for us to get back on track. In addition to that, we work with an organization called Capital Region USA, which is comprised of Washington, D.C., State of Maryland, State of Virginia, and the Airports Authority, IMWA, to bring international visitation to the region. So our efforts will continue in that regard as we focus on the most important, one of the most important aspects of travel to Washington, which is the international market. We're excited about the Silver Line, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that it will start in the first quarter of next year. We're extremely excited about some of the changes at Dulles, but especially what's happening at DCA as they are undergoing some major renovations which all visitors and Washingtonians will benefit from in their near future. So we congratulate MWAF for all their efforts, especially the demise of 35X, that gate that no one really, concourse that no one really appreciated, as we're looking at a new concourse and in the expansion that's happening out there. So a lot of key things in which we're focusing on as we're looking at the near future. The reality for us is that conventions are looking at Washington 5 years out and beyond. So that still remains extremely robust as we're looking at that opportunity. And as we look and focus on the international efforts, we will focus on our relationship with international offices and the local government, the federal government, excuse me, to hopefully open borders very soon. In March, we recognized the former governor of Rhode Island, Secretary Raimondo, coming into office as the new Secretary of Commerce. And Tori and I were talking on the side a few minutes ago about we have enjoyed all the former secretaries, but the fact that the Secretary of Commerce, as busy as she is making tourism a priority is refreshing. You know, she's talking to their office on a regular basis. They reached out to me about the Travel Tourism Advisory Board, which is a component of the Secretary of Commerce, and asked that I rejoin that office or that organization simply because we help engage and influence future opportunities for travel, be it infrastructure, which the current Biden administration is focusing on, and other key components like visas and the likes. So I'm honored that she has asked to be actively involved in what's happening in Washington. And unfortunately, she could not be here today, but she was kind enough to record a video message that we'd like to share with you at this time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's terrific to be participating in this year's National Travel and Tourism Week as we see our country recover from the devastating effects that the pandemic has had on your industry. As Commerce Secretary, I have a vital mission: to spur good-paying jobs, empower entrepreneurs to innovate and grow, and to help American workers and businesses compete. There is no doubt that the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated existing inequities and hurt workers and businesses across the country, and especially so in the travel and tourism sector. That's why supporting the travel and tourism industry is one of my top priorities. As the governor of Rhode Island, I saw firsthand how your industry was affected in a state that relies heavily on tourism, particularly in the summer months. And I had to make excruciating decisions that balanced public health and safety with economic well-being. Now, the good news is that the latest statistics show that tourism in America is starting to bounce back as a result of the Biden-Harris administration's vaccination campaign. Although the administration has put America back on the right track, there is, though, still a lot of uncertainty. And so it's vital that as we effectively transition beyond COVID-19 restrictions, that we clearly communicate expectations as early as possible and that we follow the science and the data. We remain committed to doing more to turn around the economy and the tourism industry as we go forward with our economic recovery. I'm collaborating with my colleagues in the White House and all across government on just that, and I will continue to represent the voice of the travel and tourism industry in all of those conversations. There's also an opportunity for us to get creative to help the travel and tourism industry bounce back quickly and safely. Creative in our messaging campaigns, creative in infrastructure improvements, and creative with technology. As Commerce Secretary, I'm focused on how the travel industry can recover in the short term from the pandemic, and also how America can compete as a travel destination in the longer term. I'm excited to utilize the $750 million that was allocated to the Department of Commerce through the American Rescue Package to kickstart some of that short-term recovery. I'm committed to ensuring these funds are distributed in a way that reflects the losses in all 50 states, territories, and Washington, D.C., and to ensure we're considering the needs of underserved communities and our goals of Build Back Better. I'm also excited about what the American Jobs Plan will do to invest in our airports, roads, bridges, and high-speed transit options. Investing in these areas will make America an even better travel destination. I'm proud to be President Biden's Commerce Secretary and proud to be part of a team that will help ensure the American Jobs Plan becomes a reality. It's about funding and incentivizing structures that allow us to maximize economic activity and position America to outcompete for decades. I'm so glad everyone's joining together to support the travel and tourism industry. America has so many great destinations to offer, including here, the great city of Washington, D.C. And my hope is that soon we will all get to explore every corner of America. Thank you.
The industry a priority and her new hometown of Washington, D.C., and making sure that we have a seat at the table as we look at rebounding. You know, the mayor has said more than one time that rebounding and safety, wearing your masks, and of course getting vaccinated is the opportunity for us to rebound. We're seeing it in other cities, and we are also seeing it in Washington, D.C., so we remain very optimistic. So as we conclude, I did want to also say a special thanks to my board of directors, headed by our chair, Stacy Smith, as well as Deputy Mayor John Felcecchio, for all of his support for our industry and other industries as we look at rebounding. And of course, to the mayor and to all of our distinguished guests that are here today. The fun thing about Travel and Tourism Week is that the U.S. Travel Association is headquartered here, as is Brand USA. So there's nothing like having this event in Washington, D.C. and having the support of the U.S. Travel Association. I know Roger Dow wanted to be here in person, but we are extremely excited to have Tori here with us as she represents our industry so well. So we're excited about the future, and we remain optimistic as we look at reopenings and individuals being interested in coming back to the city. And of course, the fact, as Greg referenced, we have conventions still on the books in Washington, D.C. this year for major citywides. So we're remaining laser focused on the future. And as I conclude, I'd like to say thank you to the media for all of your support over the last 14 months and making sure that our industry is on the forefront of a lot of stories in which you all have done in Washington, D.C. So with that, I'll conclude, and we will entertain any questions that you all may have of us at this time.
What did you say? Okay. Well, Mayor Bowser, you said tourism is very important to you in bringing people in to DC because DC needs travel. But people are deciding to move their weddings outside of the district because of that rule of no standing and dancing. Is that what you want to see? And how is DC going to compete against Maryland and Virginia when a ban like that isn't in place?
Well, I'm very pleased that because of the steadfastness of DC residents and businesses, we were in a position to open up venues who have been shuttered for 14 months and haven't been able to have any events, including weddings. So you might look at this differently. You might say that for 14 months we haven't been able to host weddings at our venues, our hotels, and now we can. So I think that people will book here, and I'm very hopeful about that.
What would you like to say to those who are relocating their weddings outside of the district because of that?
People have a lot of choices, and we know that you've heard from all of our travel experts that safety is top among them in terms of the decisions that people are making, including the people who live here and work here and the people who will visit here. And so we think it's very important that we open up our industries, but we do it safely.
And why do you feel like it is important to have in place when neighboring states don't have a rule like that?
I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C., and so I work with our public health experts to make the decisions that are best for Washington, D.C. You heard the secretary say, in the short term and in the longer term, and so that continues to be our focus. So you're asking, for example, why we still have some distancing rules inside, why we require seated receptions or seated dinners. That is because that is what the public health experts suggest is safest for us right now, while we continue to focus on containing the spread and getting people vaccinated. So we have to talk about both things together. And every day that we're getting more and more people vaccinated, which is getting us close to not needing those types of restrictions. Any other questions?
These are actually.
Oh,
you
good.
Can,
It is the travel route.
So I have on different topics. First off is what's going on at Uvar Hazy today. How big a deal is it as the Smithsonian's and the National Gallery of Art begin their reopening? And what are the benefits, but also what are the pitfalls of the fact that they can't operate as normal where a tourist can just walk in?
Yeah, I think the good news for us is the fact that the Smithsonian's are starting to reopen. I think that there's a perception in which we continue to focus on a regular basis in our marketing that even though the Smithsonian's were closed, there were still other things in which people could see and do in Washington as a destination. However, from a global and national perspective, the sense is if the Smithsonian's are closed, so is Washington. You know, I've seen 7 or 8, I forget how many now, government shutdowns federally, and when that happens, the perception is DC's closed. So the good news for us is that now the perception is that the reality is we were always open, and now there is more of a sense that there are things in which people can see and do. Now, the fact that you have to go online to get a ticket in advance, I personally think it's a great idea. I know that the African American Museum opened a few years ago, and that was the only way you can actually physically get in, and it just makes a lot of sense. You know, I love to see people in the city. I love to see, to a certain extent, the lines of folks waiting to get into museums. But at the same time, I wince when it's 80 degrees or 100 degrees outside when I see those lines. So I think having time tickets give people opportunities to do other things up until that time versus coming an hour in advance to stand in a long line. And in some cases, as we look at the 17 Smithsonian's in the area, including the zoo, there is an opportunity to say that this time is not available for the one you want. However, these are available. So there's an opportunity to expose individuals to others. So I think it's extremely important that the Smithsonian's open, and we're excited. And I've been talking to the deputy mayor and others about the importance of that, and of course the mayor, and it's a step in the right direction for us.
And my second question had to do with those international travelers that you mentioned. It seems to me, obviously, there's a lot of hope for domestic travel, and particularly that 4-hour window you talked about. But since you said the international travelers, they stay longer, they spend more, it seems like we can only partially recover until that comes back. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. You know, recovery is you know, even as we look at the optimism tied to the eventual reopening this year, there are certain things that we know that won't happen. We won't see the numbers of visitors that we saw in 2019, the 24.5 million visitors. You know, right now we're focusing on what we can influence. And so, you know, there is an opportunity, especially with those airlines that have nonstop flights into the DMV, which is extremely important, as well as that local market. So yes, we want everything to open up and we want all things to happen right now, but there's certain realities tied with that. You know, the mayor put it perfectly. I mean, we're fighting a pandemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of people in the US and millions globally, and that's the priority. So, you know, we're focusing on that. We're focusing on ways in which we can get more visitors to the city. So therefore, our efforts will be tied to what we think is the best opportunity. And we're basing that not on an assumption that we're making, but we're basing that on those that do the research on behalf of the industry and also look at what visitors are saying they're willing to do as they're looking at traveling in the future, especially this summer.
Thank you. Okay. Mayor Bowser, I wanted to ask about the council's decision yesterday not to raise the cap on funding for United Medical Center. Do you share Deputy Mayor Turnage's concerns about what this will mean for the hospital, and do you have predictions of what's going to happen for the hospital next?
I think we're going to keep working with the council, Julie. I think you're referencing for us, what is a critical bridge period between when a new hospital can open and if there will still be a full-service hospital available until that happens, which we're still more than a couple of years away from the opening of the new hospital. There's a lot of progress, certainly, but we won't be able to open doors. I think we're still two plus years away. So we're going to keep working with the council on that to get what we need to operate the facility in the interim. It's I won't sugarcoat it. It's a tough situation. All of the hospital operators will tell you to operate during a pandemic when you've already had a stressed facility is tough, and that's what we are encountering with UMC. Yes.
Mayor Bowser, a lot of the industry and a lot of the businesses are really asking for some predictability, and they understand, that you don't have a crystal ball. But as people plan their vacations to come during the summer, you have said before that you anticipate there may be another dial-up. You're targeting July 4th, possibly, for another dial-up in activity. When would you make that announcement? How soon before the next dial-up? How much advance notice do you plan on giving for the next dial-up so that people can, both businesses and travelers, can make those plans in advance?
We made a forecast the last time, Mark, that was a month out. I don't know that, in the next time, if we would need a month out. We recognize that just because we say something is open, it doesn't mean industry will automatically be able to open. For the museums are a perfect example. Our regulations have permitted museums to be open for many, many months. But that operation and you working with employees, booking events, safety protocols, industry will have to do a lot of things to make sure they can be open. We allow theaters to be open right now, but theaters will have time booking their shows and events, so you may still not see indoor activity in theaters, though they can operate. So we want to give folks just as much notice as we can. I will remind you that the last dial-up was started last Saturday, May 1st. So like we have done throughout our response to the pandemic, our public health officials want to see the impact of new activity on our case rates and spread, and that's very indicative of what's going to be safe moving forward.
I have two questions for Mr. Odell.
Yep.
If he is still lurking about. What's that? Do you know, Mayor, can I ask you, maybe you know the answer to this question.
I'll try.
What is the status of the overflow hospital at events at the Washington Convention Center? Is that still up? Are there plans to take that down now?
We're winding that down, and if we haven't started to break it down, the breakdown of that facility is imminent.
And then on a second topic, have AMVETs asked for a permit to use RFK parking lots for their motorcycle rally Memorial Day weekend? And if so, do you plan on approving that?
I don't know the answer to that, and that would likely be a waiver activity if there was a permit request. As you know, we're not really, and Events DC, it may have a separate permitting issue. We haven't opened up permits for special events. Okay. Yes.
Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Virginia plan to fully open by the end of the month. Just wondering when DC will consider doing the same.
I would just refer to my earlier answer. I'm sorry?
What did you say earlier?
I said that we opened up activity on Saturday, and we are continue to watch the impact that has on our case rates.
What about the 25% capacity with restaurants? I know you said there's a big restaurant scene here. You want people to come. Do you plan to change that sooner?
Again, we have a wind-up of activity on this last Saturday, and we're going to watch it with our public health experts to see what makes sense for the city. For restaurants, what also wound up was their outdoor activity and the number of people that they can seat at each table.
Is there a date specifically that you plan to reconsider all of this?
Like I said, that we just turned on activity and we're going to watch it. That was 5 days ago. Thank you.